Welcome to another episode of Transit. I'm Jacqueline Shields and today we're in Bendigo at the Bendigo Tramways Museum and we're talking trams. We're talking vintage talking trams. I'm joined by Dennis Bell, Tramways Superintendent, on one of the rare American Bernie trams. Dennis, how long have trams actually been in operation in Bendigo?
Actually, Jacqueline, since 1890, last century, Bendigo was, of course, a thriving gold mining city in those days, and it was at the forefront of technology. And, of course, a transport system was required in the city, and they brought trams here in 1890. They ran through until 1972 as public transport, and at that stage they were in danger of being disbanded and shifted around the country or the world. Many people were interested in our old trams, but fortunately we had a group of concerned locals who formed a non-profit body called the Bendigo Trust, and they actually managed to save all our trams. And since
how many are there?
There's 33 in total now, but at that time there were actually 23 in the fleet, and since 1972 until the present time, some 26 years, we've operated as a heritage tourist tramway. We're very lucky to have saved our entire collection of old trams here in Bendigo, as well as the old Tram Depot, which is today Australia's oldest operating tram depot remaining, and a third of our original street track system. And as I said, it's now used as a historic tour of our city. It's a 1-hour tour. You board the tram at the Central Deborah Gold Mine. You go into our tram depot and you can have a look at our old trams, most of them around 70 to 80 years old, and we're carrying somewhere around about 60,000 visitors to our city each year.
And we'll actually be experiencing that Vintage Talking Tram Tour later on today.
Yes, you certainly will. We run every day of the year except in Christmas Day. We actually stop on Christmas Day. The staff can have a well-deserved break, but we're here virtually 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
So 2.5 trip down from Melbourne and pop on the tram. You can't flag it down the city streets though, can you?
No, although in the early days trams did run up to the railway station, those coming by rail of course. It's only a 2-hour trip from Spencer Street out of Melbourne to the city of Bendigo, and our trams can be caught in the city centre at the Fountain, which is only a 10-minute walk down from the railway station, so it's quite a pleasant walk straight down the street to our tram stop.
Dennis, what other exciting things are happening down here with regard to the evolution of the tram in Bendigo?
Well, Jacqueline, we're just putting together our cafe tram, which will be running for dinners and for luncheons, and also we'll be serving Devonshire teas on those, so you'll be able to go through the streets of the city on one of our trams enjoying a beautiful meal. Absolutely
delicious. Now, when will that be up and running?
Hopefully it'll be the early part of next year, in 1999. We'll be having it running, done by our chef, Leo. He's our qualified chef, and he'll be serving virtually anything you can buy from a restaurant. Leo will be taking care of, and I guess the plus for this particular cafe tram is we will be serving local wines here in Bendigo, and they're amongst some of the best.
So some full-bodied reds and maybe some dry whites?
Absolutely, yes, we've got it all here.
Dennis, for all those tram enthusiasts out there, what's the oldest tram you've actually got in operation?
Jacqueline, the oldest one we currently have in service is the old toast rack or summer car, and it was actually built in Adelaide by Duncan and Fraser in 1913 for Bendigo. It's been here its entire life. It's 85 years old and we still use it regularly.
What's it called a toast rack for?
Well, it resembles the old toast racks. If some of us can remember back when toast was put in a rack to keep it warm, and Sydney had very similar type trams and they were quite famous in Sydney. Bendigo only ever had 2. We're lucky we have preserved one. The other one has gone forever.
And what sort of costs are you looking at as far as keeping the trams up and running? I mean, you got a fleet of 33, they've all been fully restored. Obviously funding for that wouldn't be insignificant.
That's right, it's quite expensive to keep them all running, and we are lucky to have some spares ourselves, and other parts we've got to get made. We've got the old original patterns that were left here when the SEC closed down from running these trams in 1972, and we've had a lot of help from our friends of the PTC in Melbourne. So between everybody we managed to get through.
What about with regard to overseas and the overseas interest in Australia and in the tram collection that you have? Because it is quite unique.
It is, and especially the little American Bernie trams, the one that we're in now is one of those. And these were built in America in the mid-1920s. They were shipped to Australia. They served either originally in Adelaide, the Port Adelaide system, the Geelong system. A couple moved into Melbourne. But through the years, most of these rare little Bernie cars were sent to Bendigo second-hand in the late 1940s. And as a result, out of the 7 Bernie cars in Australia, we are lucky enough to have 5 of them, and we believe that's the largest collection of them anywhere in the world today. As I said, highly sought after by North American tram museums. In fact, this little red one here, number 15, we were offered $500,000 for it originally several years ago, but of course we're here to reserve our past, not to sell it off.
You've managed to get out of the driver's seat, and a couple of other prominent individuals have actually taken the wheel.
Yes, we've had a number of prominent people have a go at driving our old trams, and amongst those, of course, has been a Prime Minister. We have the Minister of Transport when he comes up from Melbourne on business in Bendigo. Whenever he gets a chance, he comes up and has a refresher course on our trams, especially Alan Brown and now his predecessor, Robin Cooper. They're very good friends of ours, and they often drop in to have a chat, and of course they always like to do a refresher course while they're here.
Do you tend to have a lot of celebrations on the trams with regard to parties and weddings and things like that?
We do have a lot of celebrations. We have birthday parties, we have hens nights. We draw the line at pub crawls. We don't do those, but we do a lot of other
Well, don't
things.
drink and drive. It's probably not a bad option.
No, because pub crawls could be a little bit dangerous for our patrons, so we don't want anything to happen to them. But they have a jolly good time. We do have the champagne evening tram tours as we currently have now.
So what could you look forward to on a champagne evening tram tour? Sounds divine.
Well, they have nibblies and champagnes and singing and dancing and you name it, they do it. Makes it a very exciting and interesting trip.
Fantastic. Well, thanks very much, Dennis. And maybe it's about time we experienced the pleasures of the Vintage Talking Tram Tour.
And then in 1903, electric trams commenced running, and they've been running here ever since. Trams ceased running as a passenger service in 1972.
I'm now joined by Stephen Kirkpatrick, who is the tram driver, none other than number 6, the Tramways.
That's right, number 6.
And how did you actually fall into driving trams? Did you see it as your mission in life, maybe?
Well, it's something. It's a hankering I had, I suppose, since I was about 10. Some people like to do, perhaps want to be firemen or policemen. I wanted to be a tram driver.
So you never wanted to drive a truck?
Oh, no, I didn't want to drive a truck. I got into medicine when I left school, but I didn't find that challenging enough. So, but the university,
fully understandable.
Yeah, oh, that's right. And so the university they had running a course for tram driving, so I enrolled.
Only in Bendigo?
Oh, in Bendigo, yeah. And so I enrolled in that. I didn't think I'd get in.
Well, I mean, there's only so many places, very limited.
Well, that's right. But I was fortunate. I got in. I did my degree.
How long did that take?
No, well, it takes some people 5 or 6 years. I did it in about.
But you?
3 years, night school as well. And then I did a master's.
And now you teach, I believe, actually.
Oh, sometimes I teach, yeah. Of course, it's a much coveted course. And I'm kept pretty busy with prospective students, as you could imagine. Now, you might also imagine by now that I'm not telling you the truth.
I got the general impression that might have been the case, actually.
So the real reason that I'm doing this is that a friend of mine who worked on the trams suggested I might like to work on them to earn extra money, part-time job. So I've been on the trams now about 16 or 17 years.
But now it'd probably be a case of for love, not money.
Oh, yes, of course. Without a doubt.
And with regard to driving trams, what are the pros and cons? I mean, traffic, for example.
Well, you've really got to just understand that most of the car drivers can't see you.
Do you find that surprising?
Well, yeah, I do. But they seem to get in the way a bit. But the main thing is not to hit them. That's the best thing. I try not to hit cars.
Rule number 1.
Yeah, I try not to hit cars.
Do you go around them?
Well, no, they've got to go around me. I'm on tracks, so I can't get around them. But I've got a bell, and if you come from Melbourne, so you know what the tramways are like down there. Well, I do the same up here.
I think most drivers in Melbourne have been dinged by that bell. So is that a ding of frustration?
Yeah, sometimes, or a bit of road rage, I suppose.
Oh, you have tram rage?
Oh, yes, you have tram rage. I haven't got out yet and boofed anybody, but, the bell is enough. I take my frustration out in the bell.
Now, during this course that you took part in,
Yes.
how do you school people against tram range? Any tips?
Well, I don't
Maybe
know.
actually you've got some tips for tram drivers in Melbourne because
Well,
there's a lot
maybe
more
the-
traffic.
Well, that's right. I suppose one of the things which I thought was quite good in the early days was to ingest a small quantity of alcohol prior to going out on the trams, but now they've made it 00. So, yeah, it's a bit difficult now. So you've just got to ingest after you knock off.
And do you see a healthy future for tram drivers in Bendigo as far as this is a tourism attraction?
Well, I'll give you a serious answer now if you like. Yeah, well, the trams...
Serious answer number one coming up.
Yeah, well, no, the tramways in Bendigo are very popular because people like to ride on old things. People like history. People like antiques. People like all sorts of things that are old these days. So the trams are always pretty busy. They run every day. So I think I'm always assured of a job.
Fantastic. Look, Stephen, thank you very much for your time today.
It's a great pleasure. Is that all?
And thank you very much for this fabulous hat.
Yes. Now I'm giving you that hat, Jacqueline. You can have that. Can I just show it to the camera?
All right, I wear it with pride.
It's been loved, as you can see.
Well worn.
But I'm happy to present that to you and wear that around in Melbourne and whatever. And you can have that, okay? And you can have on my coat as well.
I'm not going to say no.
In direct contrast to this hard-working, hard-living aspect of Bendigo's life, Cornish miners...
We're now in the cafe at the Central Deborah Gold Mine, where we can enjoy one of Bendigo's world-famous cappuccinos. Highly recommended, Stephen.
Highly recommended. World famous.
So you're going to be leaving us here, and we hope that you'll be able to make it down to Bendigo, just 2.5 hours out of Melbourne, to enjoy the delights of the Tramways Vintage Talking Tram. And you're going to shout me a coffee, one of these world-famous cappuccinos.
I am indeed. Now, just before I do, you'll notice that Jacqueline's not only got my hat, and she's got my coat as well. Next to she'll have my pants. But
I don't think so.
I'll go to order the cappuccino now.
Thanks very much, Stephen.